Hey everyone, Kevin here, and welcome to History Talk. I'm so excited to be kicking off our very first deep dive with you all.
Yeah.
And I'm joined by the amazing Jenny, who's ready to tackle a topic that spans, well, a really long time.
Ready and excited.
Yeah.
There's just something about digging into the past.
Right.
Especially a history as twisty and layered as Britain's.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Buckle up, everyone, because we're about to go on a whirlwind tour of British history, like a crash course through all the big stuff, the things that made the UK what it is today, you know?
And we're starting way, way back.
Okay.
Before the UK even existed.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking evidence of humans hanging out in the British Isles thousands of years ago. Stonehenge, anyone.
Stonehenge. Okay, now that's what I call impressive.
Yeah.
Like, who wakes up one day and decides to move gigantic stones around and build something that's going to last, what, forever?
Right.
But get this, Stonehenge, it's old. Like 2500 BCE old.
Wow.
So these weren't just some random builders.
Right.
These were people who understood astronomy, engineering, the works. A whole society coming together for a massive project. Blows my mind.
Right. It really makes you think about, like, the sophistication of prehistoric people. We often don't give them enough credit.
Totally.
But they set the stage.
Yeah.
They were already here, these vibrant cultures, long before, well, you know.
Oh, yeah.
The Romans came knocking and decided to add their 2 cents.
Which is the perfect transition, because that Roman invasion in 43 CE, that really shook things up.
Oh, definitely.
Roads, towns, even a little sprinkle of Latin in the language. It's like Britain got a crash course in, well, being Roman.
Fast forward on the development, for sure. But even empires have their limits.
True.
By the 5th century, they'd left, leaving this gap, this power vacuum.
I mean, you know what they say about nature and vacuums, right?
Oh, yeah. It gets filled.
And in swept the Anglo-Saxons.
Exact.
Sailing over from mainland Europe. And they weren't just here for a quick visit. They settled, making their own kingdoms. Wessex, anyone. Fans of the Last Kingdom, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And they basically gave England its name.
Angleland. Right. Land of the Angles.
Exactly.
And while all that's going on, another force is making itself known. Christianity. It was a time of huge religious and cultural change. Think missionaries like St. Augustine spreading the word, changing the religious scene of Britain. But it wasn't all like peaceful chats about religion. Remember those guys, you know, the ones with the helmet?
Oh, yeah, with the horns.
Yeah.
The Vikings.
Yeah.
They weren't exactly known for their, shall we say, diplomatic skills.
Right.
Raiding, pillaging, causing chaos along the coasts. But we can't forget, they also stuck around setting up shop in parts of Britain, like the Northeast, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we talk about the violence, but they brought their own stuff too. Traditions, languages, even their DNA. It's a reminder that British history isn't exactly a straight line.
No, not at all. It's messy, full of different threads, all tangled up. And just when you think you've got a handle on things, bam, 1066.
1066, the year William the Conqueror decided to, pop over from Normandy. And just like that, the Battle of Hastings, everything changes. But William's win, it wasn't just a power shift, was it?
Oh, no. It launched a whole new era.
Right.
The Norman conquest, as it's called. It's everywhere. Every corner of English life.
I mean, it's like the butterfly effect, right?
Exactly.
One event leading to all these huge changes.
Think about it. It brought us feudalism. This system, land for loyalty, military service, boom. Society restructured from top to bottom. Imagine your life revolving around owing allegiance to a king or queen just because of where you lived.
Whoa. And it wasn't just like who was in charge. The English language got a total makeover too.
Oh, totally.
I mean, we're still using words with French roots today because of the Norman conquest.
Crazy, right.
It's like a linguistic time capsule.
And this whole era, we call it medieval. It's not just about conquests and words. It's castles, knights, those classic images, right? And of course, the power struggles.
The monarchy and the nobility going head to head. Speaking of which, we've got to talk about one of the most important documents ever. It still matters today, in a way.
For sure.
The Magna Carta. 1215. King John's got barons rebelling.
Oh, yeah.
And what does he do? Agrees to some limits on his own power. I mean, talk about a power move. This is huge. It establishes this idea. No one is above the law, not even the king. That was radical.
Totally. It was a game changer for English law.
Right.
A step towards democracy. But while England had all this internal drama going on, they were also, kind of busy on a bigger stage. The 100 Years' War, remember that?
Oh, yeah, the war with France that ironically lasted way longer than 100 years. You might think, oh, just a war. Yeah. But it really solidified England's identity and set up this rivalry with France.
For centuries.
For centuries. It's amazing how these conflicts, they shape everything, you know. But hey, before we go any further, I think it's time for a little break. Let everyone catch their breath.
Good idea. We'll be back soon with more British history, I promise. We're back.
And it's time for, you guessed it, the Tudors.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously, if British history were a TV show, this would be the season everyone's binging, right?
Absolutely.
Larger-than-life characters, politics, religion, everything's changing. Where do we even start?
Well, you've got Henry VIII, right? This is a king who wanted a son so badly, he decided to, well, he broke from the Catholic Church.
Huge. It's like, imagine the headlines.
Right. Divorced a few wives, said goodbye to a couple more, and bam. England's got a whole new religion.
It's wild. Personal ambition meets serious theological debate, and it changes everything. Imagine, suddenly the king's in charge of the church. Talk about a power move. And of course, it sets the stage for his daughter.
Elizabeth I. Talk about an icon. They don't call it England's golden age for nothing. Shakespeare. Defeating the Spanish Armada. England on top of the world.
She knew what she was doing, that one. Navigating religion, politics, all while encouraging the arts, exploration. But like all families, the Tudors couldn't last forever. And then came the Stuarts.
Cue the drama.
It's like they inherited all the drama of the Tudors, but not the, the skill to handle it.
Right.
And we start to see this tension building. The monarchy, they thought they were picked by God, right? Divine right to rule and all that.
Of course.
But Parliament, they're representing the people, and they're not afraid to make some noise.
It's a recipe for disaster. And what happens? The 17th century, a whole series of showdowns, and then bam! Yeah. The big one.
The English Civil War.
Father against son, brother against brother. It's a reminder that power, it's not a game.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
So the monarchy loses, right?
They do.
And then, what? England's a republic? Like, bonjour.
Well, they try it out. Oliver Cromwell, he was a military leader, sets up the Commonwealth of England. But it was a wild ride.
It's tough to change everything overnight, right?
Exactly. People miss the familiar.
So what happens? Back to square one?
Pretty much. Cromwell dies, 1660. They bring back the monarchy. Charles II, the son of the king they executed, he's back.
Talk about awkward family reunions. But things didn't exactly go smoothly, did they?
Not exactly. That tension between the crown and parliament, still there, simmering. And boom, 1688, the Glorious Revolution.
Glorious Revolution. That sounds awfully cheerful for a revolution.
Well, bloodless might be more accurate, at least in England. Basically, Parliament was done with King James II, Catholic king. Not popular, so they offered the throne to his daughter, Mary. She was Protestant, married to William of Orange. Problem solved.
A royal switcheroo.
You could say that, but it's more than just who's wearing the crown. Power shifted.
How so?
William and Mary, they agreed to a Bill of Rights, 1689. Limits on the monarchy, more power to Parliament. A big step towards the system the UK has today.
Wow, so out of all that chaos, this new system emerges. It's amazing how that happens, right?
History's full of surprises, and get this, all this is happening while another massive change is going down. The Acts of Union in 1707. England and Scotland, they decide to make it official, become Great Britain.
Ah, yes, the power couple is born. It's weird to think they were separate for so long, their own kingdoms with their own agendas. What made them finally say, you know what? Let's do this.
Well, it's complicated. A bit of politics, a bit of economics, maybe a dash of religion thrown in for good measure. For Scotland, being part of England's growing empire had its perks. Trade, power, all that. And England got rid of a potential rival right on their doorstep. Of course, Ireland's story, well, that's a whole other podcast.
That it is. So now we've got Great Britain ready to take on the world, but before we jump into empires and revolutions, let's take a moment to process.
And we're back. Last time we left Great Britain, brand new, stepping onto the world stage.
And they didn't make a splash.
Oh, they made a splash, all right.
Yeah.
The 18th century, Britain rides that wave of the Industrial Revolution, going from island nation to, global powerhouse.
Glow up of the century. But it's not all, factories and steam engines. This is when the British Empire, it really takes off.
Oh, yeah.
Expanding across the globe. The sun never sets on the British Empire, they said.
And they meant it. Dominating, but it's important to remember there's another side to this.
Right.
Colonialism, exploitation, oppression. We're still dealing with the effects of that today.
It's a complicated story. Advancements, yeah, but at what cost? It's something to think about.
Definitely. And then the 20th century hits, the world's changing again, fast, 2 world wars, just a few decades apart. It was a whole new level of conflict.
Millions dead, empires crumbling. Britain, yeah, they were on the winning side, but it wasn't easy. Economic hardship, a whole generation lost.
And just as they start to rebuild, another war. World War II. This one really tested them. The Blitz, the Battle of Britain, fighting against fascism, it took incredible strength.
And it wasn't just on the battlefields, right? Life in Britain had changed too. Women, for example, stepping up, filling roles traditionally held by men on the home front in the factories.
And it changed how people saw them, what they were capable of.
Amazing, right? Even in the middle of all that chaos, things are shifting. And speaking of shifting, the war ends and the British Empire starts to fall apart.
Bit by bit.
Colonies that fought alongside them, they're not interested in being ruled from across the ocean anymore.
It was a long time coming. Independence movements popping up everywhere.
So Britain, after centuries of empire building, they're facing a new reality.
A new world.
So what happens then? Smooth sailing or what?
There were definitely some bumps, but you also have the creation of the welfare state, the NHS, 1948, still a cornerstone of British society.
The NHS, that's huge. Healthcare for everyone. It's this idea that no matter who you are, you deserve care. Amazing. But of course, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. Britain had to rebuild, find its place in a world that looks very different.
Exactly. And then they make a big decision, 1973. They join the European Economic Community, what became the European Union.
The EU. Talk about a relationship with some ups and downs.
To say the least.
Economic benefits, sure. A sense of, unity with Europe, but also lots of debate. Sovereignty, identity. What does it even mean to be British in this new setup?
Big questions. And it all leads up to Brexit, 2016.
The UK votes to leave the EU.
A decision that's still playing out today.
Right. How's their economy doing? Their place in the world. It's a whole new chapter.
It's fascinating, and it shows how complicated national identity can be, especially in a globalized world.
Absolutely. So, here we are, the 21st century. Britain's facing new challenges. Climate change, global instability. Who knows what the future holds? But one thing's for sure, it'll be interesting to see what happens next.
History never stops, right?
Yep. And that's what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, that was quite a journey. From Stonehenge to Brexit, we covered a lot of ground. But we want to hear from you. What events do you think were the most important in shaping the UK we know today? Let us know. And thanks for joining us for this deep dive into British history.